universes are colliding. As soon as they touch, they annihilate. And so the multiverse is collapsing. So you get this infinite universe that is just slowly shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. There's obviously the host of heroes are trying to figure out a way to solve this, but Doctor Doom is the one who ends up going down into the depths of reality, either making a deal with some kind of cosmic deities or killing cosmic deities and stealing their powers, and then becoming the one using the powers to try and like solve the problem. But he's doing it in a very Doctor Doom sort of way that is not very egalitarian.
Now we're going to talk Marvel today, but what have you been watching lately? If we could just talk about that for a second.
What have I been watching lately? I've been watching a lot of movies that match our political moment.
Okay, yeah. Timely.
Yeah, let's see. I actually watched Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
Ooh, very timely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that timely, but like, let's see, I watched Chernobyl because
Wonderful.
I needed to watch the failures of state take place.
That's going to be on our sacred text coming up this year, yeah.
Yeah, because there's something about, this goes back to like Plato and like Aristotle. It's catharsis. Reality doesn't give you resolution very often. And so in order to we need to be able to confront feelings in a safe way, and story and narrative is a way for us to do that. And so right now we're in a pretty unique political moment. And so I've been approaching it through narrative as a safe way to feel the feelings.
We talk about that maybe too much on this podcast, but rightly so. Rightly so. I've been watching a bunch of Oscar stuff. I know we've been talking about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Best Pictures. We're talking about Best Picture noms. Now that the full list is out, I think I've seen everything but 2 of them, so I got a couple more to catch up on. But today, let's go back and talk about Doomsday, which is going to be the biggest, if not one of the biggest movies this year. I don't know about Timmy. Timmy Supreme is trying to make Doomsday a thing,
Yeah,
Dune Messiah.
So was Robert Downey Jr. It was a partner effort.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't see the same crowd showing up for both completely. There will be some good crossover.
I will. I mean, here's the deal. I can't imagine. I don't know. I honestly would be surprised if they both release on the same day, right?
Yeah.
Because Dune 3 has got the IMAX screens reserved for like a full month.
Yep.
And you really think that Disney wants to go up against that? Disney wants the IMAX screens.
Yeah, they do. I mean, there's already going to be that problem this year with Spider-Man coming out right around Odyssey, and Nolan's got those IMAX screens locked up for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see. There's always the re-release. Who knows? We reached out to our fans, and I got some questions. And I know we've talked about Doomsday a little on some past podcasts.
Yeah.
But let's just kick this off first with you doing a 3-minute recap of Marvel to this point. We start with Iron Man, and we're just going to roll through it really fast. We get to the
in 3
Avengers.
minutes.
Boom. 3 minutes.
So once upon a time, Robert Downey Jr., who plays Tony Stark, gets kidnapped in the desert. And then he builds a suit of armor to get himself out of there. And then he toys around with the idea then he like masters the suit of armor, makes it the Iron Man suit of armor. And then he toys with the idea of a secret identity, and he's wrestling with his demons. And he's like, no, I am Iron Man. And then we get an explosion of metahumans all over the place. And then we get this awesome phase 1 that includes Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye. And then we get this fantastic Avengers movie that made by Joss Whedon, which, looking back, like if you go back and watch that, you're like, oh, this is cute, a little kitschy, but it's cute. And then the MCU kicks into high gear. You get phase 2, phase 3, where we're driving towards the Infinity Stones. For people who watch the comics, as soon as Thanos showed his face, you know where it was headed. We were headed towards an Infinity Gauntlet, an Infinity Snap, where half the people get snapped away, and that's what we got in Infinity War. And then in Endgame, you get the Avengers, the core team, doing a time heist to get the Infinity Stones at their various locations in time to snap back everyone who died or who got snapped away. And then Thanos dies and loses. And then from there, we get the multiverse saga, which has, been ups and downs. If Marvel did anything Marvel obviously did something really good up until Endgame, which was they had a tight hand on the wheel, creatively speaking.
Yeah.
And then for the multiverse saga, it feels like they just didn't realize that was the secret sauce.
Yep.
And so the quality was all over the place. Quantity was there. There was a lot, but quality was all over the place. So you got some real like standouts like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the
Mhm.
Ten Rings, fantastic. I can't. How have we not had a sequel to that yet? And then some real low moments like Thor: Love and Thunder, which was a fun movie, but just like not what it should be, you
Yeah.
know. And then you get some misunderstood ones like the Eternals. I personally love the Eternals, and I think that everyone who doesn't like the Eternals is a hater, and they don't understand. They don't understand a good movie when it's given to them.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so the whole multiverse saga that we're at right now is kind of all over the place. It doesn't have quite the directionality that the Infinity Saga had, with like, oh, we know exactly where this is headed. If you read the comics, you know where this is headed, and I have read the comics, so I know where this is headed. I know where we're going.
Well, let's segue that to the first question we received. What happened to Kang? For those who watched the shows and some of the movies pretty closely, there was Jonathan Majors. We all know kind of what happened in the news,
Mhm.
what happened there. But in the comics, how does Kang play into what we're now doing with Doomsday?
So I think the original plan with Kang was to do obviously it was to do the Kang dynasty, where you just kind of get this multiversal baddie who like every version of him across the multiverse is trying to become the number one guy.
Yeah.
If like for anyone who's listening who hasn't watched the Loki series, absolutely you've got to watch that. It is one of the high points of Marvel's multiverse saga. Season 2 is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it kind of sets some of the groundwork for what Kang was going to be. But then here's what happened. Not just with the Jonathan Major stuff in real life, but also they had Kang lose to Ant-Man.
Yeah, they
You
did.
know, look, I love Paul Rudd, I love Ant-Man. If you're going to set up your new big bad, don't have them lose to Ant-Man without any of the
Yeah.
other Avengers present. Like, he's supposed to be this big guy. He's supposed to be the next Thanos. The first time we saw Thanos, he beat the Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, so don't have Kang lose to Ant-Man the first time that we really see him.
Ant-Man's stronger than you know. Family is so okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And it was Ant-Man was a rough one as its own entry, but
Yeah.
yes, that was a huge misstep.
I mean, that was kind of they were trying to make Kang the new Thanos, but then because of all of the things, they're like, okay, we got to pivot. People don't believe in us as a brand anymore. We got to pivot. And so they're always like, it's so silly because the Doomsday was originally called the Kang Dynasty. And so I'm sure some of the broad brushstrokes they're maintaining, which in the broad brushstrokes being that the multiverse is collapsing and the universes are running into each other and eliminating themselves or annihilating themselves, and Kang is behind it.
Mhm.
Now they're saying like, oh, it was always going to be Doom, Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Wrong. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. No. But now I don't want to say they've just like, it'll be interesting to see if in Doomsday they do like address the Kang thing at all, because they
Mhm.
could easily like do it like hand wave off screen, which is just like, oh, well, Ant-Man beat him. And then the TVA, because Loki now kind of is the guy holding the timelines together, the TVA's mission is to just go eliminate Kang variants, and they've done such a good job that we don't actually have to worry about it anymore.
Mhm.
Or Doomsday opens and Doomsday solves the Kang problem, and that's the opening scene.
Yeah. Could be good. Okay, I can see that. That was an unresolved timeline, if you will, an unresolved string that a lot of people had questions on. I guess the next question and what we're talking about here is why is Doctor Doom attacking or going to face all of our heroes? Or
Mm-hmm.
and less than favorite heroes, but all the various timelines of heroes. I know we've seen teaser trailers with the Fox guys coming back with X-Men and whatnot. So why exactly is Doom even doing all of this? What do people need to know before stepping into the movie?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And here's what makes Doom a very compelling villain is that Doom's complicated.
Yeah.
You know, compared to some of our other villains, like they did a really good job making Thanos more complicated than he is in the comics. Because in the comics,
Hmm.
Thanos is just like, look, I'm actually in love with death. I'm going to kill half the people in the universe to court death because I'm in love with her. Because
Yeah.
there's like an entity death in the comics. So they did a good job, like complicating his motive of like, oh, there's
Yeah.
just not enough resources. So I'm the only person who understands that this needs to happen, and I'm the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
Doom has some of that same energy of like he believes he's the only man up to the task of doing what needs to be done, which is like confronting a genuine problem. but his way about going about it is very probably myopic. You know, you can really learn a lot when they did in the initial casting announcement at Comic-Con with Robert Downey Jr. You know, he said when he took off the mask, when RDJ took off the mask, he said, different mask, same task. And so like, and the task was, if you look at what Iron Man is doing, especially in like Age of Ultron, he's trying to put a suit of armor around the world. He's trying to make his job as Iron Man irrelevant. He's trying to he's ultimately like, he's trying to protect everything so hard that he ultimately breaks things.
Yeah.
And so the same task that it's the same task that Doctor Doom is having. And so obviously like, whether or not Doctor Doom is a variant of Tony Stark or Tony Stark is actually a variant of Doctor Doom in the multiverse, we have no idea. But Doctor Doom, so the problem of the multiverse saga, especially, and this is shown in the comics, they haven't really touched on it yet, is that universes are colliding. Universes incur on each other, and then as soon as they touch, they annihilate. And so the multiverse is collapsing. So you get this infinite multiverse that is just slowly shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And Doctor Doom is one of the only. There's obviously the host of heroes are trying to figure out a way to solve this, but Doctor Doom is the one who, like, ends up going down into the depths of reality and either making a deal with some kind of cosmic deities or killing cosmic deities and stealing their powers, and then becoming the one using the powers to try and like solve the problem. But he's doing it in a very Doctor Doom sort of way that is not very egalitarian.
So a non-egalitarian leader of sorts who thinks he's the only one who can do something and breaks everything in the process.
Yeah, and breaks everything in the process.
Timely? No,
Timely.
We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. I guess the next question, as you just kind of touched on with meeting with or killing deities, is Doctor Doom going to be nerfed in this movie or overpowered? So they asked, is this going to be a boring Thanos-esque fight where it feels like our heroes just can't win no matter what, unless a hand of God moment happens? Or will he be scaled back from comics and somehow give them a fighting chance?
No, I think he's going to be overpowered.
All right.
But like, I think if I had to guess Doomsday, we're going to see his escalation of power grow significantly, because Doctor Doom is kind of this mix of technology and magic. So he's like, if you took Doctor Strange and Iron Man and put them together, like that's what Doctor Doom is in the comics, is that he works in both realms. And so I'm sure initially he is just kind of going to be a man of technology and magic. But then over time, like in the comics, in the Secret Wars arc in the comics, he becomes God Doom. God-Doom, because he functionally has the powers of a god. So yeah, I would expect, I would have fans expect that at the end of Doomsday, the Avengers are going to lose, just in the same way that they did in Infinity War.
Well, and that brings us to our next question. Does this movie shift focus to other groups and teams and dissolve Avengers for good? Are we finally going to see this closed out, or do you believe, knowing the MCU and otherwise, they're going to keep bringing them back and they'll find other ways to be back here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that the MCU is moving towards a reboot, like a soft reboot, and they're using Secret Wars as a way to do that. So in the comics, they use Secret Wars as a way to reboot their own timeline in the comics, where all the universe collapsed into one single world. And then, of course, over time, they rebirth the multiverse so that they could have stories that were independent of each other and stuff. So it happened. Yeah. But this is going to be a soft reboot. And as much as, like, obviously it's going to be Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars. So as much as they're going to be Avengers films, I think after Secret Wars, they're going to focus real hard and real heavy on the X-Men.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get some kind of Avengers thing, but I don't think it'll be, I think they might do what they probably should have done, which is just like push the pause button on some of their IP for like 5 years.
Yeah. Less, quote, burnout, if you will, and allow time for the stories and things like that. Yeah. I agree. This is a rough one, and I have to ask it anyways. How many more times do we have to watch Professor X die?
Probably one more time, for real.
At least.
At least one more time. Yeah, I mean, at least one more time. Man he's got to die a lot.
He has to die a lot. We'll move on from that one. Our final question that we had from someone who seemed like a comic book fan, but is maybe a little colder on this one. They said, how excited is Madison for this movie, knowing the comics? Does it feel like a grand finale or a next step into a better phase of Marvel? Or does this kind of feel like a wrapping up of what you love and whatever comes after is bonus points?
More the first one.
Okay.
I feel like Marvel kind of lost their way. I mean, I feel like they did. They
Yeah.
clearly lost their way. And I'm trying not to get overhyped, get too excited. I was just like, we'll see what the movie's like when I see the movie.
Yeah.
But I think that so far it feels like Marvel has started to learn their lesson and they're starting to right the ship and get back on track. Like I remember how awesome it was. The first phase ones, two, and three were just fantastic. It was like,
Yeah.
we were eating so well. It was such a great time to be a superhero movie fan. And now it's kind of embarrassing to be a Marvel fan. And
Yeah.
I just want them to fix it. And I feel like this is them fixing it. So I'm excited. I'm excited. And I think this is going to pave the way for the next decade of their storytelling, hopefully in a good way.
So you're not scared about the Russo bros who took a break from Marvel and have had bomb after bomb. You believe they're going to be fine in the Feige system.
Yeah, because look at their track record in the Feige system.
In the Feige system, yeah.
Within the confines of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Russo brothers made hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, they struggled on the outside, and I don't know what the core of their struggle was. Is if they're just shit writers or what? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what the problem is, but within the confines of Marvel, the Russo brothers are pretty good.
Good
You
track
know?
record. Good track
They're
record in
really
Marvel.
good. I mean, and you look at they're really good at ensemble casts
Yeah.
because the Russo brothers got their start on Community.
Yeah.
The Greendale Community, like human beings, like that's where they got their start with an ensemble cast, and that's why they're so good with Captain America: Civil War and those two Avengers movies, is because they're working with a really complicated narrative, and they're working with restrictions. I think this is part of the same problem with like George Lucas and Peter Jackson is someone needs to tell these people no,
Yeah.
and when they don't get told no, you get slop. You get what they made with like the Electric State or whatever.
Yep.
But I think being within the Marvel Cinematic Universe creates a restriction and confine around them that enables them to create something really good.
And it better be good for all parties.
It better be.
Better be good. I guess my last question before we wrap up is what are the 5 Marvel movies someone needs to watch if they haven't caught up or if they missed some before seeing Doomsday? Fantastic
question.
Four?
Yeah, you need to see Fantastic Four. You got to see Fantastic Four. You probably got to see Wakanda Forever. You probably got to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, you got to watch Endgame. You got
Of course.
You got to watch Endgame. Yeah, you probably at least watch the post-credit scene for the Marvels.
Okay. Yeah.
Where that one lady ends up Monica Rambeau ends up in the X-Men universe because of reasons.
Yeah.
You should probably watch the Eternals because it's not going to matter. They're not going to touch it again, but you should watch it. And you should watch it with new eyes and say, oh, actually, this story is really good. Just tell yourself the story is really good and then watch it and then accept that it's actually really good.
Foolproof system.
Foolproof.
Tell it, watch it, believe it. I mean, with as much as Kamal Nanjiani's been talking about it on every interview he's done and on his stand-up special a little bit, you're like, it is coming back into conversation. Not that it's going to be remade or whatever else, but maybe at some point we'll get a character show up here or there.
Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was biblical. It was mythical.
Chloe
It was
Zhao.
It was an Adam and Eve story.
Yeah, it was. It was. Okay. We got some movies for people to watch. We've got some answers to some doomsday questions. Now we just have to wait a few months or, 6+ for the movie to come out.
Yeah.
You saw those trailers. Did you love any of those little teaser trailers they did?
I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of having like 4 different small teaser trailers that are leading to. Obviously, we're going to get like a full trailer here, probably in February or March or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I watched the one with Steve Rogers, and I was just like, they better know what they're doing
Yeah.
because they gave him such a good ending in Endgame
Yep.
that to bring him back like that, like they better knock it out of the park. They better knock it out of the park because it's the same thing with like what they did with Logan with Wolverine. They gave him such a good ending, and I'm not convinced Deadpool and Wolverine was a great way to bring him back.
Yeah.
Like, part of me is like, I think they should have left him dead, and so I'm like, look, I love Captain America. I love Captain America. So I'm full of both caution and optimism from watching those trailers.
Cautiously optimistic. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would love to just have people die for good on some of these movies and just be truly dead. To close out a character, to close out,
Maybe
if not,
Professor X.
Patrick Stewart literally cannot come back as him again. It's got to be done. He's doing theater until he kicks the bucket. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they handle it. I was a little confused when they first announced that this movie was going to actually be Avengers fighting Doom rather than the Fantastic Four with the help of other people, because I was like, oh, I thought Doom was a Fantastic Four villain. Anyways, so I'm interested to see how they're going to handle having so many faces on screen at once. They did
Yeah.
fine with Endgame, fine,
Yeah.
and same with Infinity War. Some were left a little in the dust, but it was fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, December, all will be revealed. Well, most will be revealed.
Most.
Let's wrap it up there for today. We'll have linked in the show notes the movies that Madison mentioned from the MCU that you need to watch, including The Eternals, before watching Doomsday this December. And until next time, watch good movies and TV.